For more than 30 years, Johnny Carson didn't just host The Tonight Show. He quietly became Hollywood's most dangerous observer. Night after night, millions watched him charm America with effortless humor and calm authority. But when the cameras shut off and the applause faded, a very different Carson emerged. A man with razor-sharp instincts. A man who judged Hollywood with ruthless clarity. Those who worked closest to Johnny Carson knew the truth. Once the studio lights dimmed, the real commentary began. Martini nearby, filters gone, Carson spoke freely about the stars who had just sat across from him. And over decades of unscripted conversations, he formed a secret mental list, celebrities who became famous without real acting ability. Tonight that list is finally revealed. Johnny Carson revealed 6 Hollywood stars who were terrible actors. And once you hear the names, you'll never watch classic Hollywood the same way again. This list wasn't born from jealousy or cruelty. Carson deeply respected acting as a craft. Long before he became America's late-night king, he was a student of performance. Growing up during the Great Depression, he escaped into movie theaters whenever he could, studying films with an attention few noticed. Later, as a magician, he learned how illusion works, how easy it is to fool an audience, and how hard it is to fool someone who truly understands performance. By the time Johnny Carson took over The Tonight Show in 1962, he had developed a rare instinct. He could sense authenticity almost immediately. Unlike critics who judged actors through edited scenes and multiple takes, Carson judged people live. No script, no retakes, no safety net. Under that pressure, true ability revealed itself. And so did its absence. After certain interviews, Carson would retreat backstage and deliver what staff members jokingly called the real review. These moments became legendary. Over the years, a pattern emerged, and 6 names stood out as examples of Hollywood's ability to manufacture stardom without substance. The first name became a punchline in itself. Sonny Tufts. Tall, handsome, and Yale-educated, Sonny Tufts looked like everything Hollywood wanted in a leading man. During World War II, when many established male stars were overseas, studios desperately needed new faces to fill the void. Paramount Pictures seized the opportunity, selecting Tufts and rapidly pushing him into major roles. On the surface, the plan made perfect sense. He had the look, the pedigree, and the polish. But to Johnny Carson, Tufts represented something far more troubling. A leading man with virtually no emotional connection to his work. Carson was fascinated by how someone so visibly limited could rise so quickly. Behind the scenes, Johnny often entertained the writing staff by impersonating Tufts with brutal precision. He would stiffen his posture, lock his face into a blank stare, and deliver lines as if reading directly from a grocery list. The imitation was so accurate it left the room in hysterics. Over time, Tufts' name became a running joke within Carson's inner circle. When a monologue joke fell flat, Johnny would casually remark that it must have been written by Sonny Tufts. To Carson, Tufts wasn't just a bad actor. He was a symbol of everything wrong with the studio system. Jane Mansfield. On camera, Johnny Carson was the model of professionalism. He complimented Jane Mansfield's glamorous gowns, laughed politely at her stories, and treated her with courtesy every time she appeared on The Tonight Show. To the audience, their interactions seemed warm and playful. But behind the scenes, Carson's opinion was far less generous. Privately, he believed Mansfield wasn't an actress in any meaningful sense. She was a carefully engineered publicity machine designed to attract attention, not convey emotion or depth. What truly frustrated Carson wasn't simply her limited range. It was what he saw as a complete lack of effort. Unlike Marilyn Monroe, who took acting seriously, studied tirelessly, and constantly tried to improve her craft, Mansfield appeared content to rely entirely on image. Carson noticed how she sidestepped thoughtful questions, redirecting conversations toward flirtation or well-practiced anecdotes. When pressed into unfamiliar territory, she often giggled or feigned confusion, behaviors Carson viewed as avoidance rather than innocence. Johnny admired women who combined beauty with undeniable skill, performers like Julie Andrews, Sophia Loren, and Barbra Streisand. In Mansfield's case, he believed the talent was never developed because it wasn't required. That conscious choice not to grow bothered him more than outright failure ever could. If Mansfield represented fame without effort, the next name on Carson's list represented fame without substance. Tab Hunter. With blonde hair, blue eyes, and a chiseled jawline, Tab Hunter became one of the most famous teen idols of the 1950s. Fans adored him. After Hunter's appearances on The Tonight Show, Carson would privately remark on his emptiness as a performer. "He acts with his jawline," Johnny once joked. Carson believed Hunter's appeal came from being a blank canvas. Audiences projected whatever fantasy they wanted onto him. Directors worked around his limitations by minimizing dialogue and surrounding him with stronger actors. Carson found the disconnect fascinating. Enormous popularity, minimal ability. It was the perfect example of Hollywood valuing image over talent. Later revelations about Hunter's personal struggles might have softened Carson's judgment, but during his Tonight Show years, Hunter embodied the dangers of studio-created stardom. Then came the next step in that same assembly line, Mamie Van Doren. If Jane Mansfield frustrated Johnny Carson, Mamie Van Doren outright amused him. To Johnny, she wasn't even attempting to be an actress. Instead, she represented Hollywood's most cynical habit, copying a successful formula until nothing meaningful remained. After Marilyn Monroe became a phenomenon, studios rushed to manufacture blonde bombshells on an assembly line, and in Carson's eyes, each version came with less talent and less substance than the one before. Van Doren, to Carson, was the clearest example of that decline. He believed the studios weren't even pretending to value acting ability anymore. They simply needed the look, the measurements, and the marketing. Everything else was optional. During her appearances on The Tonight Show, Carson noticed how carefully she recited prepared answers, rarely engaging in natural conversation or revealing any depth beyond surface charm. Privately, Carson summed it up with one devastating line: "She makes cardboard look expressive." To him, Van Doren wasn't a failure of effort. She was a symptom of an industry that assumed audiences wouldn't notice or care. Tony Curtis. Early in his career, Tony Curtis became famous for performances that were unintentionally comic rather than convincing. Hollywood repeatedly cast him as medieval knights, ancient warriors, and historical heroes, roles that demanded gravitas and authenticity. Instead, Curtis delivered his dialogue in a thick Brooklyn accent that shattered any illusion of time or place. For Johnny Carson, these performances became the perfect example of Hollywood prioritizing looks over credibility. But Tony Curtis did something almost unheard of among Carson's list of limited performers. He didn't coast. He worked, he studied, and slowly, unmistakably, he improved. Films like Sweet Smell of Success and The Defiant Ones revealed a completely different actor, focused, disciplined, and emotionally grounded. Carson noticed that transformation immediately. By the 1970s, Curtis was a regular guest on The Tonight Show. Johnny treated him as a legitimate actor, occasionally teasing him about his early missteps, but always acknowledging the effort it took to rise above them. Esa Gabor. Johnny Carson didn't consider Esa Gabor a bad actress at all. In his mind, she was something entirely different, a non-actress. She never tried to disappear into characters or transform herself for a role. No matter the setting, genre, or storyline, she always played one person, Esa Gabor, and she did it with absolute confidence. Privately, Carson admired that honesty. Unlike performers who pretended to have depth they clearly lacked, Zsa never faked artistic ambition. She knew exactly what she was offering the public: glamour, charm, sharp wit, and an unforgettable persona. Not acting craft. In the end, Johnny Carson's private list revealed far more than personal opinions. It exposed the uncomfortable truth about Hollywood itself. Acting ability was only one ingredient in stardom, and often not the most important one. Beauty, image, and marketability regularly outweighed skill. From the golden age of the studio system to the rise of modern celebrity culture, Carson witnessed that reality firsthand from behind the desk of The Tonight Show. He saw who could think on their feet, who could be genuine without a script, and who fell apart the moment the illusion disappeared. Carson wasn't cruel, and he wasn't bitter. He simply valued authenticity above all else. After decades of watching stars up close, he knew exactly who had real substance and who was only pretending. If you enjoyed this deep look into Hollywood's hidden truths, make sure to like this video, share it with fellow film fans, and subscribe for more untold stories from entertainment history. Thanks for watching.